All right, let's talk about the backlash against one of the biggest self-help books out there, Atomic Habits. I mean, millions of people absolutely swear by this book, right? They say it's life-changing. But there's this growing group of critics who are arguing that the book, and a lot of others just like it, might be more about making us feel good than actually helping us improve. So let's get into it.
So yeah, the whole promise of the book is this, like revolutionary system for getting 1% better every day. Tiny habits, big results. But here's the question the critics are asking. What if the whole thing is less about really challenging us to change and more about, well, just making us feel validated? That's the real question we're going to dig into today.
Okay, first things first, we have to acknowledge just how massive this book is. Seriously, Atomic Habits by James Clear isn't just a bestseller. It's practically a cultural landmark at this point. It has been sitting on top of the bestseller lists for years. It's become the absolute go-to guide for, well, pretty much anyone trying to make a change in their life.
But you know how it goes. Alongside all that incredible success, a totally different narrative has been building, kind of quietly in the background. You've got these really sharp, insightful critics who are starting to question the entire foundation of the Atomic Habits philosophy. And trust me, they're not holding back.
So what are these critics actually saying? Well, the critiques are all over the map, really. They range from some pretty funny observations about how fragile these habit-building systems can be, all the way to a much deeper, more systematic takedown of the entire modern self-help industry. Let's kick things off with this fantastic quote from Anthony Lane over at The New Yorker. It's hilarious, right? But it also makes a really serious point. Think about it. The systems in the book, they seem so perfect when you're reading them. But real life is just messy. One little accident, one bad day can throw the whole thing off track. And this gets to a key criticism. The advice feels kind of fragile, almost like it doesn't account for the chaos of, being a human.
But then the criticism gets a whole lot sharper. Stephen Phillips Horst, writing for The Guardian, makes this incredibly powerful argument. He says books like Atomic Habits are basically feel-good Marvel movie versions of philosophy. I love that. He's saying they give you simple heroes and villains, a nice, neat story, and they make you feel good and validated without ever really pushing you to think differently or face some uncomfortable truths.
And according to Phillips Horst, this isn't just about one book. Nope. He thinks Atomic Habits is the perfect example of a whole new genre of self-help. And he's even got a name for it.
He calls it TEDcore. And yeah, the name itself kind of gives it away, right? It's meant to bring to mind a slick, super polished, easily digestible TED Talk. The advice is packaged to be really appealing, something you want to share. But the critics argue that in making it so smooth and easy, something really important gets lost in translation.
So what is TEDcore exactly? Well, think of it like this. It's advice that feels super scientific, but maybe isn't. Its main goal isn't to challenge you, but to make you feel understood, to affirm what you're already feeling. It's more about comfort than it is about the hard work of actual change.
And apparently, there's a whole playbook for this. TEDcore books, they often kick off with some big, grand theory about human behavior. Then they give you advice that sounds really deep, but when you try to apply it, it's kind of vague. And here's the key part. They validate what you already think about yourself, often using kind of circular logic and citing research or experts that might not actually hold up if you look too closely.
Okay, so if we boil all this criticism down, it really comes to one central conflict, right? It's this clash between what these books promise to do for us and what the critics say they actually deliver.
And this slide really lays it all out. On the one hand, you have the promise. This book will challenge your thinking, give you actionable steps for change, and it's all based on hard science. But on the other hand, you have the critique, which says, no, actually, it just comforts your feelings, offers easy validation, and uses some pretty dubious research to get there. This is the disconnect that the critics are all pointing to.
Which, of course, brings up a huge question. If there's any truth to these criticisms, why are books like Atomic Habits more popular than they have ever been? What does that tell us about what we're really looking for when we reach for one of these books?
So here it is, the heart of the issue. The crucial point is this disconnect, right? You have this wildly popular system for self-improvement that has become a massive cultural phenomenon. And at the same time, you have this really sharp criticism arguing that its success has less to do with being effective and more to do with just being comforting in a really complicated world. And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. If the main product these books are selling isn't really change, but validation, then what is it that we're really trying to buy when we pick one up? That's definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining us.